Hi, my name is Juan Gomez and I have chosen to do a leading video on the effectiveness and importance of professional development. The reason that I chose this topic is because I believe that it is very beneficial to our teachers as well as our students. I believe that because the teachers are seeking professional development and eager to grow, then I believe in return the students will gain a lot of knowledge and will become more successful in the classroom. What you will observe in this leading video is a presentation over the topic, the effectiveness and importance of professional development. I will have a PowerPoint presentation that each teacher will receive a copy of. I will also have an activity for them that involves a self-reflection. The self-reflection is a questionnaire that has questions where you have to rate on a scale of 1 to 10. At the end of it, it has 2 questions that help reflect. You'll see in the video that the teachers do this reflection and then they will discuss what they felt their weaknesses and their strengths were. I also have here the PowerPoint. They will each receive a copy of it, and then in that PowerPoint it contains an agenda of what we will be talking about. Okay, moving forward, we will have open discussions and we will share ideas and experiences that relate to the effectiveness and importance of professional development. After meeting with my mentor, he agreed that the importance of professional development would be the best topic and the most beneficial for our teachers. The faculty that you will see in the video consists of 4 core teachers who happen to be the department heads, as well as our special education coordinator. Our 4 teachers consist of the math, science, social studies, and English language arts department heads. The items on the agenda are related to the topic of professional development. These include the discussions, the importance of professional development, some key points to consider while seeking professional development, the reasons for seeking professional development, and the various types of professional development that are out there and available for our teachers. Professional development is adequate and most beneficial because it always allows you to grow, and there are a wide variety of opportunities for professional development. Professional development may be inadequate at times because of the costs and the constraints that it will have on your staff. The teachers value the importance of professional development as a whole. After the activity, I gave a survey in order to assess time management, effective communication, collaboration, listening, and relevance of a topic. And the reason why I did this was for my own personal reflection. You won't observe this happening during the video, but I did it as a point for me to reflect on my presentation in general and my leading video. In concluding the introduction, I want to remind you that the video that you observed focuses on the effectiveness and importance of professional development and consists of feedback and discussions that the teachers had along with myself containing to professional development. All right.
Do anyone want the sprouts? No, I'm good. Huh? Yeah, it's recording right now. Okay, first of all, I want to thank y'all for coming to this meeting over professional development. Right now, I'm going to pass out a copy of the PowerPoint. Need my pen? Okay, if y'all turn to the next slide, I'm gonna have to walk back and forth because I don't have a clicker to click, so I'm gonna have to walk over here to the computer. Actually, Audrey, will you come work the computer please? That way I don't have to worry about that. Your first slide is just an agenda of what we're gonna cover. On that agenda, we're going to have an introduction, we're going to have some open discussion, we're going to discuss the importance of professional development. I have some points to consider, some reasons for professional development, types of professional development, and then we'll end with closing thoughts and a conclusion. So, if you will turn to the next slide, please. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is the purpose of this meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to inform you of the effectiveness and importance of professional development, as well as the various types of professional development that will allow you to grow as teachers. Okay? The importance of professional development is that it helps you grow as a teacher, it helps students become more successful, and it will decrease the burnout that you've heard of all teachers getting burned out throughout the year. But professional development is one of those things that it gets you away and reminds you of why we're teachers and why we're doing what we are doing. Can anybody tell me what are some other reasons why they seek professional development?
To learn more in a specific area, like to grow in something you don't have as much knowledge over.
Yep. Anything else?
To get more ideas from other teachers and other people, so that way, I mean, like she said, to learn more about something and to get more new ideas.
Okay. Ms. Davis, Ms. Stanley?
To enhance the academic atmosphere of the classroom.
Yeah, those are all very good reasons.
Yes.
The first thing we need to talk about here is what is professional development and what areas is it important in? Can anyone tell me what they think that professional development means to them?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Professional development is where you develop yourself in various ways to increase your professional, whatever your professional area is.
Continued education.
Yes.
Continuing education.
Yes, that's one of the main things about professional development. We always want to continue our education and find ways to improve as teachers so that we can help our teachers. The next slide is a quote, and it states that it has been said that teachers who have been teaching for 20 years may be divided into two categories. The first category is those with 20 years of experience, and then there are those with 1 year's experience that repeats 20 times. Can anybody tell me what that means?
The phrase, we've never done it that way before, that's the 1 year, 20 times.
Yeah, so you can get caught up doing the same thing over and over, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's working. Some points to consider are time on the job does not ensure experience. Successful teachers are those who continue to develop throughout their professional lives. The completion of an initial qualification is just a beginning. And then there are some more points to consider. It is difficult to maintain a sense of engagement when using the same old lesson routines or reading text time after time. And then if we do not take steps forward towards development, it is difficult to maintain the initial enthusiasm. What do all of these points overall mean to y'all?
You gotta do something different to motivate the kids. You can't
That's
come
exactly
in.
right. You gotta adapt towards your kids and find
Exactly.
out
You don't
what
want to-
motivates them in the classroom.
Well, sisters and brothers that had you 2 years before, I'll tell you what she's gonna do next time, you know. You don't want that kind of thing to happen, so, no, it's all about how you present it.
That's
You can't
right.
just present it the same way every year.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
every class you have is different, like even
Yes.
just from day to, we're at a junior high setting, so you
Right.
change classes all day. So you're not with the same kids, and
Exactly.
these kids to these kids, and these kids to these kids, you're gonna be trying different things and doing
Exactly.
different things, and
Cause the lesson may flow very smoothly in one class, and it's not, won't flow that smooth in another class.
We've seen that, and
Yes.
we've seen that first experience. It might work in Miss Lowry's class, but then it might not work in somebody else's class.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, those are all things. Okay, we'll continue on. Some things to think about are, if you feel that you might need professional development, these are some things to consider. The first one says, have you ever felt you were doing the same thing again and again? Have you ever felt you have too many demands, you are bored, you're very tired, you like not taking risks because you are safe, you have too many pressures, you are stressed, or you're burned out? If you feel these ways, you might need to consider taking some kind of professional development in order to help you along the way in your classroom. So, you have any experience there, Ms. Stanley?
Oh, just spinach.
Okay,
Not
we're
the
going.
board, I don't understand the boredom, I'm not quite sure where that would come in.
Yeah,
No.
I hear you. So, first thing we're gonna talk about is burnout. Burnout can be caused by many things. It's caused by working too many hours, having too much to do, undesirable conditions at work, or commuting, and among several other things. I know you commute quite often, and from Lufkin, back and forth. Some other things that aren't listed here might be, classroom behavior. I know y'all get tired of getting on the kids about the same thing over and over, there are several things that contribute to that. But if you turn to the next slide, it says, well, she's already there. There is hope. The best route out of teacher burnout is to re-engage, reflect, and refresh yourself. And this is where professional development comes in. And like I said before, it reminds you of what you need to do in order to keep moving forward and remind you that you're here for the kids. So the next thing says, you can train me, you can educate me, but you can't develop me. I develop me. What does that mean?
I think it's trying to say that you can sit in as many trainings as you want to, but until you really take the time to, what am I trying to say, to
Process all
and to put it into action and to try
Right,
to
try
learn
yourself,
it.
right.
Until you're willing to put those things into effect, you're not really gonna grow as a teacher. You're just learning and not applying.
Right.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna take time to reflect, and just reflect with yourself. What kind of teacher am I? What am I trying to achieve for myself and my learners? What are my strengths and limitations as a teacher, not a language teacher? How do my students and colleagues view me? Why do I teach the way I do? How have I developed as a teacher since I started teaching? And what are the gaps in my knowledge? These are just some questions you can ask yourself to reflect on and just kind of do a self-reflection. At this time, I have a little activity for you. You can get in partners, or I know we have an odd number here, so y'all can pair up. But what this is a teacher self-reflection, and what it says is think of a lesson that you have recently taught and fill out a self-reflection. And once y'all fill these out, then I'll have y'all pair up, and then y'all can talk about it and discuss with each other. Share your ideas. Stanley's probably thinking, I know I didn't. Didn't think I was taking a test today. Anybody need a pen or anything? All right, I think I'm gonna give you about one more minute and then we'll be thinking about the strengths and the weaknesses of your lesson that you taught. And if you're willing, we'll have you discuss them. All right, at this time, if you're still working, you can just continue to work, but is there anything that stuck out to any of y'all when filling out this self-reflection that you thought might have been a strength or a weakness that you felt about the lesson you taught?
Something that was a weakness that it has to be like a teaching weakness, I guess, is that the students always have trouble. They can get it that moment, but then as soon as we have to
Yes.
apply it to something else, it's
Mhm.
like they've never seen it before. And so that was something that I always had trouble, like this, if they get it and they're in that moment and I see the light bulbs come on and then it's like, okay, so here's this over this, now apply what you learned to this, and
Yeah.
it's just that's definitely a weakness. Sometimes they get, but most of the time it's just definitely a struggle. It's like I have to reteach it over and over.
Yeah, and when you do these self-reflections, you can kind of look at what you feel that might be some of your weaknesses, and then you can go and look for some type of professional development to help you with that weakness. So that's why these self-reflections are, beneficial to us. That way it can improve us as teachers and help develop us in a more professional manner, so. What about a strength? Does anybody have a strength that they wanted to share?
Yes, when you get them all actively involved, and of course, you kind of seen that how we would be before, you know, making sure everybody's on target and everybody's enjoying what the lesson is. And sometimes, depending on what the subject, what you're talking about, they can all chip in.
Mhm.
And that has been a strength with me on some things. It just depends on the class too, you have to watch that. The class you have, and everybody can chip in and say something, and it's a positive thing, and they'll say, yeah, I remember that, go on. That's been a strength in some classes, not all, but some.
Yes. All right, I just wanna, if y'all go on to the next slide there are also other ways of reflecting. Some ways may include keeping a journal, joining a support group, kind of like, I guess, if you get with your department or whatever and y'all share ideas. So there are also audio or video recordings. We have one here similar to that. I can't think of the program at this time, but there's a program out there where you can, you know what it is, Ms. Lee, where you can watch videos of people's lessons and stuff like that. I have to get the name of it. When I get the name of it, I'll let y'all know what it is. And then, of course, there's also case reports. You can do a teaching portfolio, and critical incidents, and any type of action research. There are two things that we can do. We can either do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Some people may say that equals insanity. Or we can teach and learn, and if we do that, then the desire will be to move forward and to increase learning by reflecting on ourselves. It involves feedback from others and also self-reflections. In order for us to grow professionally, you'll go to the next slide. In order for us to grow professionally, there's some things we must do. We need to prepare, do, recall, reflect, and conclude. For prepare, we have to prepare our lessons. Obviously, make sure we provide the students with a good, solid lesson. And then after that, we must do what we prepared. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory there. And then we must recall on what we did. What are some ways that can help us recall on what we're supposed to do?
Well, like you said, the video recording, that's always a good thing. I did that during my student teaching, and I actually got to see myself teach, and it was weird, but I also got to see like how I interact with the kids. And then also between like your peers, like if someone's in the classroom, they can like write down some notes, that way because you don't always remember every little thing that happens in a lesson. I mean,
Yes.
Kid could be chucking something else across the room and you forget what happened 2 minutes ago. So it's like you have to make sure that you remember what happened during that lesson.
Yeah, that is correct. So, and then once we recall what we did, and then we have to reflect on it. In some ways, we can reflect on it just like we did right now. We just did a self-reflection, and then we talked about the weaknesses and the strengths of the lesson. Finally, we'll conclude the overall success of the lesson, and you'll decide, was that lesson successful? Or are there things that we need to work on, or do we just need to go at it from a whole different approach? All right, at this time, we're going to discuss, have you ever been observed while teaching? If so, who observed you? How did you feel? Did the person give you any practical or expert advice? So that first question there, have you ever been observed while teaching?
Yes.
I think we all have.
Okay, yes, you should have all been observed while teaching, unless this is your first year teaching and your administrator just hadn't had a chance to get to you yet. If so, who observed you? Who normally observes you while you're in the classroom? Principal, assistant principal.
But it's kind of like
The
what
superintendent will come around occasionally.
If you are
just
an
kind of like
inclusion
walk through.
teacher, or if you're a teacher with an inclusion person in the classroom, then you're doing it every day.
Yes.
your peer, so
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Well, sometimes when you know you're being observed, it kind of makes you nervous because it's kind of like, you know, that's your career, that's what your, kind of like your standard. But eventually, once you've been somewhere, I feel like once you've been somewhere and you get comfortable enough, half the time you're just kind of like, oh, they're in here, oh well. Like, so I guess it just depends on the situation and who it is.
Peer observation is a much safer environment for you to do, that way you don't feel like it's about to cost you something. If you mess up or if they have a better idea, it doesn't freak you out like you're fixing to lose your job because they have a better idea for you. It's a much safer way.
Well, because, you know, like when it's an administrator and you're teaching a lesson and the kid, like it flops and the kids are just like, what? You're kind of just like, you know what I mean? Like in the, you know, so that, it makes you nervous, but when you're co-teaching or when it's a peer, a lot of times your co-teacher or your peer will chime in and pick up where you're missing it, and it makes it a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, you shoot them the help eyes.
Yeah,
you know,
you're
like
like-
help and like,
Or you're like, they're not getting
they're not getting the
Hey,
help.
Since you brought that up, that was gonna be my next question anyways. How does that make your kids feel? Do your kids act any different whenever someone observes it?
It depends on if it's the assistant principal or if it's the co-teacher that's in there every day.
Yeah.
No, I had a bad experience last year, and it was the good kids. I was being observed, and they decided to get quiet and not open their mouth and comment. And they just sit there, and I said, okay, you know what I'm going. I was walking over, literally trying to get them to talk, and then when the observer walked out, I said, we were scared. I said, scared of what? He said, so, I mean, I've been teaching a long time. I never had that to happen. But they just got quiet and didn't say anything. And I thought, oh, now if this could be, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't,
I need some of that.
from my experience, it makes a big difference when you walk in and observe a class and they're fine, but as soon as you walk in with a clipboard or a piece of paper taking notes, they'll lock up on you. I mean,
Yeah.
I happened to see that in Ms. Davis's class last year. So.
Yeah.
And I've seen it where, like, if you're out of school, because I've been at several different schools, and if you're out of school where the principal doesn't come in very often, they'll freeze. But if it's a school where your principal's in and out and they see you all the time, they don't pay no mind. They usually just.
So, do y'all think that it is important to seek some kind of professional development for those cases, for how to, I guess, prep or deal with your kids whenever you know an observation's coming up, or yourself in general? So.
I think it's just important to talk to them and say, we're just gonna act normal, like, don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just,
Because
Just
you
a first year teacher though, I definitely went and asked the veteran teachers, okay, what do I need to expect, what do I need to tell my kids? And so, probably the first year, professional development would be great in that area. But then, you know, after that, then it just kind of gets, you know, easier, but.
natural the longer you.
Well, how do you feel afterwards when, in regards to, I guess, speaking or communicating with the person that observed you? Did the person give you any practical or expert advice, or, you know, did you feel comfortable going to them and talking to them, or were you nervous about trying to have to explain that, hey, my kids were nervous?
They went crazy. I don't know.
It's gone both ways.
yeah, it can go.
But most people, I feel like pretty much everybody here, you're open to feedback.
Yes.
Like, I'm always open to feedback and what's gonna make me better, but there is, if something like that happens, you're like, look, let me explain.
Exactly.
Peer observation is where your fellow teachers observe each other's lessons. The purpose of that is the observer learns new things and reflects on their own teaching. The observed have a chance to talk about their lesson with an observer they trust. So, I mean, two people benefit from peer observations. One gets to learn from the other one while the other one reflects, and, you know, they get to share ideas. So, the next one would be, yes.
When I was teaching, I had never taught like the younger grades, and I got a job teaching first grade, and my principal had come in and done some observation, and we were working on daily 5 and stations, which I didn't have a lot of experience with, and so he sent me for an entire day to watch a master teacher, and that was probably the most beneficial thing I'd ever done, rather than sitting in the classroom, which isn't bad, but just seeing it in action
Right.
for an entire day, I went like that next day and restructured my entire classroom, and then the rest of the year it was great because just watching a master teacher who had done it and had all that experience, that's what really helped me figure out how to run the Daily Five and structure my class better. So it benefited me more than just sitting in, I mean, I'd sat in I don't know how many presentations about Daily Five. I'd sat in about 5 of them, but it didn't do me any good until I went and saw it in action. You
Yeah.
know?
And the next one is formal observation. This is the one that we're most familiar with also, formal observations where you have an administrator come in and observe your classroom, whether it be walkthroughs or, you know, the actual observation itself. Then we have literature. This is one I don't think is used very often. Types of literature that could help you grow professionally, methodology books, journals, magazines, or just any book in general that deals with teaching or, you know, that has anything to do with the classroom. Can anybody tell me a list or, you know, any book that you think that might have helped you grow professionally as a teacher? Has anybody used any books? One of the books, I'll get to you, sorry about that. One of the books that I've given out to teachers before, this is called A Teacher's Encyclopedia of Behavioral Management. And what this is it's a book that has anything to deal with anything from nose picking all the way to kids not wanting to sit in their seat, being disrespectful, anything. And what it has in here is it has plans and tells you how to deal with that. I had a teacher last year that asked about this book and wanted to use it, and she found new ways to deal with kids in certain uncomfortable situations. So, yeah. But back to Ms. Lowry, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say Eric Jensen, Teaching with the Brain in Mind, Harry Wong's First Day of School, and then any of the Tough Kid books
Yes,
are
yes.
just really good. Those would all, Teaching with the Brain in Mind, I actually read before I became a teacher, and so that was kind of like, I always have to go back to that one.
And I enjoyed the books on restorative justice, and you made a huge impact on my relationship with the students. We often forget that aspect of teaching, and a lot of burnout occurs because your approach to it is not conducive to your students, and that restorative justice really opens up a whole nother avenue of relationship and how to correct problems within the classroom without sending the students out and without causing things to spiral.
I read, my first year I had it was more of a resource type book, and it was called How to Survive Your First Year. And it had all of these different, it had like a paragraph, and then it would have a handout of what you could hand out like at a parent-teacher conference or what to say during a parent phone call. And I used that thing religiously. I mean, I would run copies off of, okay, like, it would even say like, okay, whenever it's like meet the teacher, I was so afraid my first meet the teacher about the parents coming in, and so it said, okay, well, print this off, and we told you step by step on what to do, and it gave you, it gave you the sheet with the name and the number and anything they want to know about their kid, stuff that you don't think about as you become like a veteran teacher, but all those little things that I used, and then also the Fundamental 5. I read that twice. I read it in college, and then I read it my first year again, and it really breaks down the way you're supposed to structure a lesson and work backwards, and it made me kind of rethink how to do lesson planning.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right, the next one is conferences. Like I said earlier, this is one we're pretty much familiar with. Conferences allow us to hear about the latest development in the field, take part in investigative workshops, and enter into debates about current issues in theory and practice. I had the privilege of going to a conference in Portland, Oregon. We went to the CHAMPS training, which was really neat, and we learned a lot of beneficial and useful information. And then Randy Sprick actually came here and gave the same training to all of y'all. So Is there any other, does anybody want to share a training that they enjoyed going to or had a good experience with?
Anything about Dr. Eric Tuck, he does all of the, he really focuses on at-risk kids and low economic status kids and things like that, and he doesn't even talk on academics, he strictly talks on building relationships and helping kids that are at risk, because his motto is, if you love the kid, they're gonna pass STAR, if you love the kid, they're gonna pass their classes, and it kind of like, I heard in my first year teaching, and then, the year, I heard him before I started teaching, and then I heard him again during my first year after my STAR test and all that stuff. So he's just a good one that focuses on, it reminds me a lot of the kids we work with here that are just at risk and have a lot of issues, and about how those relationships are key to all of that, you know what I mean?
I went to a conference for an ESL training last summer, and it was extremely beneficial. It was just talking about how to reach those English language learners, but all I ended up finding was that all of the skills that were given to me were great for all of the students. So that was a really cool, epiphany I guess I had while there, and I got lots of really cool ideas on how to help all of our kids, not just English language learners. So that was a really good conference.
Some other conferences that people enjoy going to, I know a lot of people don't consider it, but coaching school is one of them where they go, and that, believe it or not, that consists of professional development for our coaches. They get to go and listen to speakers and head football coaches and, learn stuff from other people there. One of the things, Miss Neely in the science department, they go to CAST, and I know they really enjoy that one. So there are many conferences and everything out there for our teachers to
Yes.
our teachers to see and do that we are, sorry. The next slide, this is one that is kind of a rare deal, sorry. But it says taking it a step further. This is one I haven't done personally, but I think that you can grow the most from doing something like this. It says submitting a paper or a workshop for a teachers association meeting, whether regional, national, or international, is one of the most powerful catalysts for reflecting upon our practice. When we try to work out exactly what we want to say, excuse me, and the best way of doing it, we are forcing ourselves to assess what we do. The challenge of a future audience sharpens our perceptions. Have any of you had the opportunity to do or participate in something like this?
I have, during my student teaching, actually, I was invited by my professors to collaborate on a paper over project-based learning. And so we talked about how to utilize, it was me and this other girl were kind of like the pilots for this thing that they wanted to do. So during our student teaching, they just gave us a bunch of different resources, and they said, here, go do this, and then I want you to write about how it worked in the classroom. And so we did that, and so we got we actually got our paper published, and then we went to a workshop in New Orleans over over project-based learning, and we got to conduct the actual little mini series over it, and it was really scary, but really, really fun all at the same time. And it really made me learn my stuff, because I was about to have to talk about this, and I was about to have to write about it, and you can't just, push it to the side. It really made me think about, okay, why am I doing this? How did this really work? And really, really made me reflect. So it did take it a step further.
Anybody else? No?
Mine wasn't near as interesting as that. I participated in I knew a professor who was doing he called it the second year teacher study, and so he was conducting a research study over second year teachers. And so my second year teaching, I began the year and I had to do like a self-reflective survey, and then throughout the year you had to submit these self-reflective different surveys and you had to kind of write about some of your experiences and stuff like that as a part of his what's the challenge with second year teachers and where does the burnout come in and stuff like that. So that was a lot of self-reflection.
That's cool.
All right, now we're gonna sum this up for y'all. That way, I know y'all are eager to go. That way I can let y'all go. So, basically what professional development is and the opportunities you have are attending conferences, taking courses, getting a certificate, diploma, or degree. You can do peer observations, formal observations, lesson planning and reflecting on your lessons, reading, writing, or you can get online. There are many opportunities online for you to grow professionally. And just remember, can anybody tell me before we end, why is it important for us to grow professionally? What is the importance of professional development?
Our kids need the best. I mean, I think that that's the main part of it, is that we want to grow ourselves so that way we can grow our kids.
Yes. And I believe, was it Karen or somebody said earlier, we should always try to educate ourselves and keep growing. I
We
believe
want
was
to
it you?
enhance the academic atmosphere and environment of
There
our
you go.
classroom.
Exactly right.
You can't get water from a dry well, so.
That's right. In closing in this, I just want to say thank all of you for attending, and if you have any more questions regarding professional development, you can see me after this. Thanks.
I appreciate it. I got those questions.
At this time, I would like to reflect on the field experience activity. I found that this focus group was very responsive to the future professional development ideas that I had suggested. As I went through how professional development was more than just conferences, the group had many things to add to it. The agenda went as follows, since I had a PowerPoint to keep me on track of what topic I wanted to cover next. After the field experience activity video, I had each member fill out a survey for my own self-assessment. The survey evaluation revealed that I did well on time management. I received high marks for effective communication. One participant wrote that the meeting was very useful and informed me of more than just one kind of professional development. In terms of collaboration, 3 out of the 5 participants felt there could have been more time to collaborate. I received high marks on listening. All of the participants gave high marks for the relevance of topics section. One participant wrote, "Overall, I liked the presentation. I would suggest more time for colleagues to collaborate, but the topics were right on point overall." Especially at this time of year, it was a good feel for how to refresh yourself. I know after speaking with the teachers and covering that topic on how professional development could be a refreshment to them, I could tell on their faces that they were kind of excited about the idea of professional development. And they said, during the holidays, just getting off Thanksgiving break and coming back and fixing to go on Christmas break, that professional development's one of those things that reminds you of why we're doing the job and why we want to help students become successful. So, after completing this field experience activity, I was able to reflect on multiple areas. These areas included what went well, what needs to be changed, what I thought was surprising, and how this experience could transform my practice as a school administrator. The first topic that I would like to present is what went well. During my presentation, I felt that this discussion among the colleagues and myself went well. Through the discussions, the teachers were able to share their thoughts and ideas about the different kinds of professional development. They were also able to recommend different types of professional development, such as literature that they have read and conferences that they have attended. I also thought that the body language from the teachers, when I would bring up a point or a colleague would share an idea, the teachers shook their heads in agreement and continued to share. This made for a safe and pleasant atmosphere. I thought my content and slideshow went over well and was thought out. Back to whenever I talked a while ago about the different literature and stuff, one of the things that I was able to bring to their attention was that there is a book that we have. I believe it comes with the Safe and Civil Schools, and what it is a teacher's encyclopedia, and it has anything from nose picking all the way through kids who won't sit down, how to deal with kids who are being a disruption, talking in class. I mean, it's comes with the Champs edition we had that as a professional development training for our staff at the beginning of the school year. So I mean, it's one of those books that I've actually had teachers check out, and it's help them with their classroom management in the classroom. So one of the things that I would change would be to allow the teachers more time to collaborate amongst themselves on the different topics. I allowed time for discussion, but not enough for them to confer with one another. I felt that there were times that some times that I could have provided more wait time, but I rushed through my slides at time, and I just felt that I could have given them more time to think. So but overall, and through this activity, I found it very surprising that there is more professional development than what I thought there was. There's not just training, and there's not just conferences. And that's what most people think of too. I thought that professional development only consists of conferences and trainings, but I found that there is actually more to it, such as peer observation, formal observation, the literature, the publishing of your own work, presenting your findings, and the wide range of online-based professional development programs. I feel that this experience will help me grow as an administrator. I am currently an administrator already at my school. I'm on a probationary contract. I'm serving as the assistant principal on our campus. But although I am a current administrator, this experience has helped me to look deeper into the importance and effectiveness of professional development for not only me and myself, but for my faculty and my teachers on campus.